slide there. Let me.
It's okay.
I don't, but as soon as it starts, I'm going to switch it to the slide that has the program on it.
Okay.
Okay, I need to go give this to him because they have to announce for the fire marshal.
Thank you.
Tell people to shut off their cell phones.
Not yet.
Everybody, if we could just make sure to fill all the seats here in the chambers first, so that they know when to go into the overflow room. So if you have seats next to you, if you could just scoot in. Thank you.
If you could try to find a seat, if a seat is available, that would be fantastic. Find a seat, please. Good evening, everyone. Welcome, elected officials, community leaders, family members, friends, and county staff members. My name is Nava Elenberg, and I'm Susan's youngest child. I'm unbelievably honored to have had a front row seat watching my mom's ascent into politics. I saw firsthand how hard she worked as a trustee on the school board, and I have the utmost confidence that her passion, brilliance, and dedication will now ensure her success as a supervisor. She will be an unstoppable force when it comes to helping and advocating for her constituents. I am proud that my county is getting another woman on this board, and even more proud that that woman is my incredible mother. It's my pleasure to begin this evening's program by calling up Robert Tafoya, the valedictorian of the College of Adaptive Arts class of 2018, to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. My mom has had a long-standing relationship with the CAA, which serves adults with cognitive disabilities or atypicalities who are not served by traditional colleges, and we are thrilled to include them in tonight's program.
Congratulations. Please stand, please. Look at flag, please. For I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty to all. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Molly Elenberg. Susan is also my mom, and Nava is my little sister. Throughout my life, my mom has been a steadfast friend, guide, and source of strength. I am extraordinarily grateful for our relationship and closeness, and I continue to admire her every new venture. My mom has written and loved poetry since she was 12 years old and asked me to offer an invocation this evening in the form of a poem. This is called To Be of Use and was written by Marge Piercy. The people I love best jump into work head first without dallying in the shallows and swim off with sure strokes almost out of sight. They seem to become natives of that element, the black, sleek heads of seals bouncing like half-submerged balls. I love people who harness themselves an ox to a heavy cart, who pull like water buffalo with massive patience, who strain in the mud and the muck to move things forward, and who do what has to be done again and again. I want to be with people who submerge in the task, who go into the fields to harvest and work in a row and pass the bags along, who are not parlor generals and field deserters, but move in a common rhythm when the food must come in or the fire be put out. The work of the world is common as mud. Botched, it smears the hands, crumbles to dust. But the thing worth doing well done has a shape that satisfies, clean and evident. Greek amphoras for wine or oil, Hopi vases that held corn are put in museums, but you know they were made to be used. The pitcher cries for water to carry, and a person for work that is real.
My name is Zach Ellenberg, and you guessed it, Susan is my mom, and Molly and Nava are my younger sisters. Growing up, my mom always emphasized the importance of education. Before I even attended school, my mom was my first teacher, teaching me how to treat others with kindness, how to make friends, and how to be part of a loving family. My sisters and I attended Yavna Day School from kindergarten through 8th grade, and our mom taught social justice there for 6 years. A tradition at the 8th grade graduation is that the kindergartners sing to the graduating students a song called Lechi Lach, which quotes the lines from the book of Genesis, in which God tells Abraham to go forth to a new land and assures him that he will be blessed on his journey. Please welcome the Yavna Choir as they sing this song of encouragement in forging ahead into somewhat unknown territory and feeling supported along the way.
Can you hear me like this? Yes. We're very, very honored to be here, and this song is going to be also featuring these two students.
choir. Hello there. My name is Ruth Ferguson, and though I am not related to Susan by blood, you just met my fiance, Zach, and my two future sisters-in-law, Molly and Nava. I had the pleasure of working on the campaign as Susan's deputy campaign manager, alongside Angelica Ramos-Allen and the rest of the campaign team. I joined the campaign because of my respect for and belief in Susan, and ended up learning so much with many of you in the room today. Most of all, I learned of the integrity and grit needed to not only win over the hearts of voters, but also to weather the storms and celebrate the victories that are yet to come. Moving forward, I know Susan and her team will do everything they can to make this county more accessible and inclusive for everyone. It is now my honor to introduce Kimberly Ellis. Named the most powerful unelected person in California Democratic politics by the Sacramento Bee, Kimberly Ellis is a captivating orator and progressive movement leader who educates, motivates, and inspires people to action. As the former executive director of Emerge California, the state's most effective training program for Democratic women who run for office, Kimberly is a nationally recognized progressive leader who has been credited with revolutionizing Democratic politics in California. Susan first heard Kimberly speak while she was running for school board in 2014. She had attended an Emerge event to learn more about the organization and was struck by Kimberly's power and enthusiasm in supporting women who were considering or were running for elected office. Please welcome Kimberly Ellis.
Well, good evening, Santa Clara County. What an honor it is to be here this evening. I am Kimberly Ellis, and I am here for one reason and one reason only, because I believe in Susan Ellenberg. You know, just about an hour and 47 minutes ago, I was in our state's capital in Sacramento for the swearing-in ceremonies of our newly elected governor, Gavin Newsom, our new superintendent of public instruction, Tony Thurmond, our re-elected controller, Betty Yee, and the last one that I had to dash out of for California's first female lieutenant governor, Eleni Kounalakis, who is also an Emerge California graduate. But luckily, the highway patrol were otherwise engaged this evening, and I was able to get here with no delay. I, like Susan, believe that representation matters. Women's voices matter. Women bring a unique perspective to legislative bodies, and in many cases, their participation results in greater transparency and inclusivity. You know, here in Santa Clara County, it is known for its progressive culture, policies, and leadership. If we want to see this country continue to lead with a culture of progressiveness, we need progressive leaders who reflect the communities that they serve. Susan is very clear with her values and what matters most: families and children. Susan knocked on nearly 30,000 doors these last 2 years and spoke with residents throughout her district. She put in the work, and her message resonated. Susan won her race by nearly 20 points. Susan's commitment to public service and the tenacity shown through her campaign leaves me feeling confident that the residents of Santa Clara County are indeed in very, very capable hands. I want to close by saying that when Susan reached out to me to share her story of why she wanted me to be here this evening, I started crying. I did, because she talked about meeting so many years ago, even before she had thought about running for this office, and the work of Emerge, and my belief that having more progressive women seated at the tables of power will result in legislation and policy that is more fair, more equitable, and more just for our entire community. And so I want to thank you, Susan, for having the tenacity, but more importantly, especially in this moment in time, for having the integrity, the moral compass to stand up and speak out for what is right, to stand up and speak out for women and children and for the least among us. We are in a leadership vacuum right now, and I believe that as the 5th largest economy in the world, California has both an outsized opportunity and obligation to lead, not just here in the Golden State, but for the rest of the country. And I believe that Susan will help lead the way. So thank you, Susan. And so I believe we have, let's see. Oh, we're going to administer the oath of office. Susan, come on up. Yep. Okay, so
I'm ready.
raise your hand. I state your name.
I, Susan Ellenberg,
Do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support and defend
that I will support and defend
the Constitution of the United States
the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of California
and the Constitution of the State of California
against all enemies,
against all enemies,
foreign and domestic,
foreign and domestic,
that I will bear true faith
that I will bear true faith
and allegiance
and allegiance
to the Constitution of the United States
to the Constitution of the United States
and the State of California,
and the State of California,
that I take this obligation freely
that I take this obligation freely
without any mental reservation
without any mental reservation
or purpose of evasion,
or purpose of evasion,
and that I will well and faithfully
and that I will well and faithfully
discharge the duties
discharge the duties
upon which
upon which
I am about to enter.
I am about to enter.
And during such time
And during such time
as I hold the office
as I hold the office
of County Supervisor.
County Supervisor.
Yes, congratulations.
Whew, so good to be here. Good evening. Kimberly, thank you. Thank you so much for your kind words, for driving too fast, and I'm glad you got here safely. I really appreciate the tremendous effort that it took for you to be here with all of us tonight, and that really just means so much to me. So thank you very, very much. As Ruth noted, I've admired your leadership for years, your staunch support for women who are seeking elected office, and for standing up for democratic and progressive values and inclusion of all voices. I want to begin my remarks tonight with some additional thank yous. Thank you first to my campaign team. I think they're all over, to Jill, John, Morgan, Paul, Steve, Ruth, Angelica, and David, who ran a clean and classy campaign and made sure we did everything exactly right. Thank you to my, right? Thank you to my new and blended team, Derek Seaver, Angelica Ramos-Allen, Myra Flores, Steve Klein, Michelle Collins, and David Fernandez so far, as we all work together and learn about the vast responsibilities and opportunities that lie before us. I want to particularly thank Angelica, who barely caught her breath after completing her triumphant role as my campaign manager before she began the arduous job of heading up my transition team. We have come a long way together, and I look forward to beginning our next journey. Thank you also to Brian Darrow and Jim Weston for staying with us to smooth the transition and help us navigate our new environment. I want to thank board clerks, Megan, who may be having a baby right now, Michelle, Dave, Curtis, and Colin for all of your, where are they? They're invisible and powerful. For all of your pregame support, strategizing, and hard work in planning this evening's program. I feel well supported already, and I appreciate you very much. I'm also grateful to my extended family, many of whom worked hard alongside me over the past 2 years, particularly my mother-in-law, Maureen, and my cousin, Julie. Many more of my family members helped by making phone calls, contributing money, lending emotional support, and whether requested or not, offering lots of advice. Yeah, you're laughing. My brothers are here from Toronto and Reno, along with my sister-in-law and nephew, and my aunt and uncle from Philadelphia, and that means the world to me. And of course, friends who have been like family and friends I've made along the way. I did not get here alone, and I am so appreciative of my circle of support. Thank you as well to the dozens of community leaders and elected officials who endorsed and supported me and who spoke up on my behalf, whether or not it was popular to do so, and in some cases at their own political peril. I'm grateful to you for modeling leadership with courage and integrity. I'm particularly grateful to the inspiring women who sat on this board before me and cheered me along my journey. Supervisor Blanca Alvarado, Diane McKenna, Becky Morgan, and the late Susie Wilson. They, along with former Mayor Susan Hammer and former Vice Mayors Margie Matthews and Rose Herrera, have shown me what women can accomplish on our own terms and with lasting impact. Unfortunately, neither of my parents lived to see this day. In fact, just yesterday, our family gathered to unveil my dad's gravestone, on which we memorialized the Talmudic quote, "He who saves one life is as if he saved the entire world." My dad was a Vietnam veteran, a surgeon, and a burn trauma specialist. He was personally responsible for saving many lives, and I hope that he would be proud of the small way in which I worked to repair our world, because I never could have gotten into medical school. And finally, if anyone is keeping track of my list of thank yous, I'm going to save my remarks about my husband, Steve, for the end. But I have a few other things to say first. As many of you know, our team, and more than anyone else, Steve, knocked on more than 30,000 doors during the 2 years that I was working to be elected as your District 4 supervisor. And during that time, we heard insights into what was working for people individually and on a communal level, and we heard their frustrations over what wasn't. And of course, we heard plenty of questions about what county government actually does. And in every instance, I really enjoyed educating people and talking about the vast array of programs and services that the county provides, and seeing their faces light up as they came to understand that this often invisible level of government accomplishes so much and plays such a pivotal role in our lives. I heard stories about personal triumphs and tragedies, and often about the joys and challenges of raising children and caring for aging parents here in the heart of Silicon Valley, this incredible community I chose to make my home 30 years ago. But it was so clear that if one doesn't have access to the right resources, information, tools, support structures, and connections to help smooth the way, life can be exceptionally hard, particularly here in Santa Clara County. I think a lot about children who are by nature most dependent on the care of others to thrive. And so I think about their families, who in turn need so much to be able to provide the stability that's necessary to raise their children to become healthy, thriving, and independent adults. It takes patience, it takes love, it takes tenacity, it takes a thick skin and a forgiving heart. It also takes nutritious food, regular health care, safe and stable homes, high-quality education, and the opportunity to work at a job that leads to self-sufficiency. We've heard the saying that it takes a village, but I want to push that a bit farther. It takes a particular culture in that village. The village, to be truly useful, must reflect a culture where everyone understands that for the community as a whole to thrive, we must take collective responsibility for the most vulnerable among us. For example, it takes a culture where mothers and fathers are given paid time off from their careers to bond with and care for their newborns, and are then supported by high-quality childcare environments so they can confidently return to work, knowing that their children will be well cared for. A culture where long-term access to safe and stable housing is an inalienable right. A culture that ensures access to both proactive and reactive health care for all children and meets their physical, emotional, and behavioral health needs without any associated stigma. A culture that ensures that every child has access to a sufficient amount of healthy food every day. A culture where education begins years before kindergarten and engages both parents and children in the journey that will lead to their participation as civically engaged, critically analytic, problem-solving adults who will be well prepared for college and career. A culture that doesn't let our children fall through the cracks when their own families are not in a position to care for them. And a culture that doesn't forget about or reject our children when they've made mistakes. This is a culture in which every child, and therefore every person, can thrive. I care deeply about these issues, and I'm not alone. I'm encouraged by Governor Newsom's disclosure that he will seek $1.8 billion in his budget to enhance early childhood education. Right? And I will work to reap the benefit of those dollars here in Santa Clara County. On a local level, my new colleagues are already engaged in a good deal of important and impactful work that contributes to a culture of support in Santa Clara County. Board President Joe Simidian has courageously tackled issues around jail reform. It is in all of our interest to act preventively and proactively to keep people out of the criminal justice system and to work tirelessly to rehabilitate those who do enter the system and move them away from recidivism and towards self-sufficiency. Joe, I admire your leadership and look forward to partnering with you to take this work farther, beginning perhaps with programs that divert mothers of very young children from being incarcerated pending disposition of low-level nonviolent felonies. It was in large part Vice President Cindy Chavez's tremendous tenacity that resulted in our county's passage of nearly $1 billion in funding to provide permanent supportive housing for our county's most vulnerable residents. Cindy, I admire your determination and spirit of persistence that you bring every day to this job. I look forward to working with you on a range of issues about which we both care deeply, including the stability of homeless families and of our foster youth. Supervisor Wasserman has long been a voice on the board for our youth and was one of the first members of the board to take a leadership role in coordinated efforts around early childhood education. Mike, I admire your ability to build bridges and bring us together around issues that impact us all, and I'm committed to building on your work in support of children and their families. Supervisor Cortesi spearheaded the School Linked Services program in Santa Clara County, taking a multidisciplinary approach to help our most at-risk youth break out of a negative cycle. Dave, I admire your commitment to our school-age population and appreciate your deep understanding that for vulnerable children to do well academically, they must be supported both during and outside of the school day. I am certain that we will find opportunities to work together on behalf of vulnerable youth in our community. And finally, though I won't have the privilege of working directly with former Supervisor Ken Yeager, it is his legacy that I look to building on first and foremost. Ken worked tirelessly for more than a decade to ensure that all of our most vulnerable populations, children, families, seniors, and the LGBTQ community, were represented and that their interconnected needs within early childhood education, healthcare, inclusion, and independence were met. There is a saying in Girl Scouts that one should strive to leave a place cleaner than she found it, no matter how large or small. And Ken, there is absolutely no doubt that as you stepped down from the board, you left this county cleaner and healthier than you found it. And I am grateful for your leadership and mentorship. In addition to my colleagues on the board, I'm glad to be walking into an organization with strong leadership at so many levels, beginning with County Executive Dr. Jeff Smith and County Council James Williams, two intelligent, passionate leaders with whom I'm already beginning to build strong working relationships. These individuals and their extensive teams have worked to evolve the culture in which our residents live for the better. I also look forward to working with other elected county leaders, District Attorney Jeff Rosen, Assessor Larry Stone, and Sheriff Lori Smith in pursuit of common goals, as well as with the elected leaders of our 15 cities. And I don't know if Sam is here, but want to extend a wish for a speedy and quick recovery to Mayor Liccardo and a healthy 2009 going forward. And look forward as well to working with elected officials from our special districts and school boards. And it's worth repeating that it is in all of our interest that our county reflect the culture that I've described this evening, regardless of whether one has children of their own or is directly connected to the lives of particular children. And why is this? Because everybody is somebody's child. Because each of us needed the elements of the culture that I'm describing to thrive as an adult. Because we know that when we invest in children, our communities are safer, our workforce is better prepared, and our economy is more stable. And because the circumstances of every child in this county will impact all of us in some way. Will the child's parents have access to high-quality childcare so they can maintain their careers, perform useful work for their employers, and live self-sufficiently? Will the child have access to regular health care so her parents don't have to miss work to provide care when an illness or condition could have been addressed by preventative measures or prompt treatment? Will that child be healthy and not apt to spread a communicable disease when you reach out to admire her in the market, on the bus, or at the mall? Will the child's parents be able to afford stable housing so she has a home to return to safely every day after school and doesn't risk becoming a victim of crime or perhaps a perpetrator consuming the resources of our public safety officers? Will the child be prepared for kindergarten and thus on the right track from day one toward academic success that will make economic independence likely? And finally, if that child makes mistakes, will there be resources to help redirect, rehabilitate, and restore her to a path where she can avail herself of better options? It is truly in all of our interest to invest in our youngest community members, to support and nourish them, and to provide them with every opportunity to become contributing members of our community. They will be our bus drivers, our builders, nurses, technicians, engineers, teachers, doctors, inventors, firefighters, artists, pharmacists, groundskeepers, scientists, and yes, lawyers. We must take care of them today because they will or won't be able to take care of us. Much of this culture is already evident in our county, but there's more work to be done. It will be my privilege and to support and partner with each of my new colleagues in pursuit of strengthening a culture in which every child is healthy, safe, stable, and positioned for success. Santa Clara County is not 5 supervisors. It is a team of 20,000 employees led by dedicated department heads spanning numerous services and functions of collective government. Together, this huge and bureaucratic machine has the power to build and sustain a culture that transforms lives. My words this evening do not do justice to the full breadth of contributions made by my current and former colleagues, and no additional words could come even close to doing justice to the thousands of men and women who serve our county every day. Just know this, I am honored and humbled to join your team. I am now an heir to the culture that those who came before me helped to create. This word that I've emphasized this evening, culture, is often associated with ethnicity, race, or religion, things that differentiate us. But the culture that I'm talking about is the one that brings us together around things that matter most to all of us. Our distinct communities express culture through particular language, food, and ritual, but constant throughout all of our communities are the children we raise. I imagine there isn't a single distinctive community anywhere in the world that doesn't love their children, value their education, and want them to have every opportunity to succeed. Let Santa Clara County reflect this culture in a way that others turn to us and say, look at Santa Clara County. That's the culture we need to create in our community. Because after all, everybody is someone's child. I promised to conclude with a comment about my amazing, brilliant, and dedicated husband. Steve and I met in law school before we had even begun our adult careers. We have grown together over the past 30 years, professionally and personally. We've raised 3 children and shared adventures, celebrations, and heartaches. But I have to admit that never had we had more fun together than running political campaigns in 2014 for school board and over the past 2 years for this seat. It is an incredible bonding experience, and truly, I feel overwhelmed with love and gratitude every time I think about him knocking on 20,000 doors to tell people one by one why he thinks that I'm amazing and should be elected to serve our community. Whoever said politics aren't romantic clearly has not met the 2 of us. Steve, please come up to receive some well-deserved recognition and to close out our program ahead of schedule.
Wow. The 2 sentences I was allowed to give don't do justice. I am so proud of Susan, I'm just beaming. And I'd say that that was amazing, and there is nothing really, in addition to Susan, nothing more gratifying than listening to my children extol the virtues of their mother. I know that Susan's intelligence, compassion, and collaborative spirit will make our county an even better place for all our residents. Yeah, you could just see it tonight. It's already better. Thank you all for joining us. Please enjoy some more music that's going to be outside, performed by the Pioneer High School Jazz Band from San Jose Unified School District, where Susan served until just last month as board president. And I hope you have a wonderful evening, and thanks again for coming.